Okay, I'm going to try this. This is an experiment. I am sitting in a car, obviously, I think, and I'm shooting with the back camera because it's a higher quality, but I can't see if my framing is right or whatever, so I'm doing this experiment here to see what the framing is. So forgive me if I'm talking to you and I'm not in the picture. If this ever sees the light of day, we'll see. So let's see. Today I got thrown for a loop. Well, last night I got thrown for a loop, and I think I talked about it. And I'm still kind of trying to get back into the flow of things. Recognize that in my life, all my life, I've had trouble handling disruptions to my flow processes, to my creative processes. It's like I get really kind of into the stratosphere of creativity, or if I'm theorizing, it's almost like I'm at a higher altitude, and when I crash from there, it's like a really far crash. It's much harder for me to come back. Um, and I'm realizing now that I need to be more careful about sharing my process when I'm in that high state. Because if I do, and I'm not communicating it well enough to somebody, or they don't understand it from their perspective, and they respond in a way that isn't kind of like supportive of it, and if I'm in that fragile place where it's not quite rooted enough, it could all crash and burn. So I'm realizing now that I have to be more kind of conscious and aware of that. Like, ask myself, all right, in this process, am I at a point where I can share it? Is it strong enough? Is it, you know, the good thing about this is I can share stuff in the middle of the process, and there's no feedback right now. But I'm wondering, when I put this up online, and I start doing this every day and putting it online every day or every other day or every week, whatever I kind of figure out in the long run here. How will I deal with it? That's interesting. That's interesting. So this is part of my um, disorder, we want to call it, or some people want to call it, where I have this hyper kind of reactivity to stress that I've always had, even as a baby. Like um, my sister used to tell me that they had to be careful about their feelings, expressing too intense feelings around me, because if everyone was sad, I would start crying, and all this. So I was always kind of like this hypersensitive, and everyone told me how sensitive Mark is. So I have that. I've always had this thing where a stress like that's normal for people is like, oh, no big deal. It's like I get a physical reaction to it. Um, I don't know. Who knows what it's all from, but it could be what they say. It's genetic, whatever. But so I'm trying to reorient my life so that I can work with that. It's like one of the things I think is important in our evolutionary process is to know the things that you need to work with, to honor, to hone, and to just be with. And like if you're somebody who has a handicap, you know, reframing it as a challenge or a goal or a calling. Like, for example, with me, with my stuttering, when I was in college at USC, I took a class with Barbara Meyerhoff, a great lady, anthropologist, and she taught a class on personal anthropology, and she was amazing. She took me to her side and said that stuttering or aphasia, as they called it, technically, I think that's a technical name for the past. historical stuff. She was saying that it was considered a holy illness, and that if you had it, then you had to heal yourself, and which would make you a healer of others. So when she said that to me, at first it was like very hard to deal with, because I never looked at my stuttering as anything but a handicap and a burden. And after she said that, I spent hours just sitting at the fountain in the Mud Hall of Philosophy courtyard. They had a fountain there that I always liked. And it was like my mind couldn't wrap around it. I was like going, how can I, this is crazy. How can I hold this? Is this a calling? Is this God like trying to teach me something? Is this, And then a few days later, it feels like a few days later, perhaps it was the next week, it was close together. I had a private editing conference with one of my film teachers, and we were going over a film I was cutting, and he, out of the blue, he said, he said, you're very good at this, at speaking visually, and I think that has a lot to do with your stuttering, that it made you a better visual communicator because you couldn't use words, and so you went with image. And it just blew my mind. That, with what Barbara Meyerhoff said, was like, wow, okay, something's going on here. I got to listen to this. And that was the moment I decided to make my graduate film, Voice in Exile, which was a story about a stutterer. So it became my vision quest. As Barbara Meyerhoff said, in the shamanic traditions, it was a holy illness that was a calling for you to heal. And so the film was my vision quest to try to heal it. I noticed I just was stuttering there. And actually the process of making the film was very healing. I had to train the actor how to stutter. And it was amazingly profound for me. I learned so much about myself and about stuttering by having to explain things to him. Certain reactions, like one time I took the actor to the McDonald's at the lunch hour, at the peak of lunch hour, and I basically said, all right, stand in line. When you get there, I want you to stutter. I wanted you to try to order a hamburger, but I want you to stutter, and I'm going to be over there, and I'll signal you when I want you to stop stuttering. So I said, all right. And so he goes there, and he gets up, and he goes, and he's just stuttering, and he's looking at me out of the side of his eye, and I'm still not. And the girl behind the counter was looking at him, and for a couple seconds she was just waiting, and then she rolled her eyes, and she plopped her head down on the cash register and went, oh my God. And then I signaled him, okay. And so then he said, hamburger. She goes, that's it, right? You don't want anything else, do you? And he said, no, that's it. Anyway, so then afterwards, he got so angry and he threw the hamburger into the garbage can. He goes, I'm going to go talk to the manager. And I said, no, you're not. Because you don't want conflict. You want to avoid conflict. You don't want to get into another situation where you have to stutter and put yourself at risk. And so in that moment, it made me realize one of the psychological dynamics that's part of stuttering. By the time I was through training the actor to stutter, I actually had a hard time stuttering myself. It was very interesting. So anyways, it was very profound healing for me and for the stuttering community. A lot of the stutterers who watched the film came up to me after they saw it and just thanked me profusely. Their families, when they came up to me and thanked me. I had many parents of stutterers say, thank you so much. I finally understand what they're going through. And the stutterers thanked me because it helped them understand themselves and also their family to understand them. It was really quite rewarding. actually quite terrifying. There was one, I was showing it at the national convention for a stuttering group, and a young stutterer came up to me and thanked me for the film and said that she was on the verge of committing suicide and my film had helped to stop her. And that was just, I was like, oh my God. And she did say that, well, everything was also so perfect for her that the therapist in the film looked just like her therapist and stuff like that. So I was kind of recognizing that a lot was going on there just besides that I made the film, but like forces at work, like the fact that her therapist looked like the actor who was playing the therapist in the film. All that stuff was kind of, and that she saw the film at the moment she needed to see it. So and at the same moment, it made me recognize that, wow, there's forces beyond myself at work here. But also at the same time, it was like terrifying. I had fulfilled my dream of affecting the world, of really using film to speak and to connect with people and to help people and all that in a profound way. But it was also, when I finally kind of like felt it, like, wow, my film helped to stop someone from committing suicide. It hit me that, so a film I make could actually help for, help someone commit suicide, or do the opposite, or hurt people. And also that responsibility of, oh my God, this is really powerful. I really realize how powerful it is. I had in my mind that film was this powerful, but I didn't kind of really grok it until that experience. So that was really interesting. Anyways, I'm probably off on a tangent or whatever, but so I'm working on right now being in this state of losing momentum, and feeling off, and just being mindful of it and being in the process and using it as grist for the mill of my evolution. So it's all part of the process. All right, well, hopefully my face will be in the frame for this one. All right. Peace out. And whoa.